Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our live conversation. We're a couple minutes late, had some fun technical difficulties that we were navigating through, but hey, aren't we all navigating through something right now, right? That's kind of the name of the game for the last couple of weeks. So thanks so much for joining us for our daily conversation. We are live with Ken Goldstein, who is a part of Stream Dental. He is a certified professional behavioral analysis. And it's always a tongue twister for me. So I need to kind of, have that space in between. But basically what that fancy title means is that Ken uses behavioral assessments, disc profiles. If you guys have ever done one, it is a fantastic tool. Using behavioral profile assessments really helps a practice owner, and it helps all of us really understand who we work well with, what our leadership styles are like, our communication style. So in that way, we can figure out how we can work well with others, foster respect for one another in the workplace, and work together towards a shared outcome. So we have Ken on here to share some expertise on how we can lead during these difficult times, because, it's great to kind of understand ourselves a little bit better during this time, but also it's really going to help us see how we can better support our team who are as well going through one of the most challenging times probably ever in their lifetime, right? So Ken's going to be here to share us some words of wisdom on how to lead during some difficult times.
Thank you, Samantha. I think it's quite ironic the title is Leading During Difficult Times, because you and I just had a very difficult 10 minutes trying to figure out how to make this thing work. And for the record, it was me, not Samantha. So what it shows you is that we are capable of, changing things and trying to understand things. So yes, thank you for waiting for us to come on, and here we are. So yeah, toughest times ever that we can remember. And it just seems when we did this last week, we were talking about some things. Week later, day later, an hour later, we met at 12:30 today, and things are already different. So the first piece of advice is always, everybody, is you are not in this alone. No matter what we do, no matter who you hear from, no matter who you talk to, it's universal. We're all in this together. The big difference will be, how do we come out of it? What can we learn from this time? And it's a fabulous time to work on your business if you can't be in your business. And as Samantha mentioned, I do behavioral profiling, which is a tool. The tool I use is DISC, but it does give you a better understanding of who you are. And we do a lot of startups. And one of the things that we find is when we profile them, they want to suddenly be a different kind of behavior because they're now an owner. Mm-hmm. So if you translate that a little further down the line, when you opened your practice, all those years ago, last week, whenever, you probably spent a lot of time thinking about what kind of instruments you wanted. You thought a lot about what kind of physical plant you wanted. Hopefully you gave some thought to what kind of a staff you wanted. But what we're trying to get you to think about, did you think about yourself? Mm-hmm. Did you actually understand your own behavior? And most people think they understand their behavior. I've done well over 1,000 profiles, and one of the constants when they're done is, wow, I just didn't realize that about myself. Mm-hmm. So why we're mentioning profiling is, what a great time to step back. You generally have not had time to do this from the day you opened your doors. Mm-hmm. So what we're encouraging you to do is evaluate yourself, understand yourself. And the thing we talk about is do it with honesty, openness, and willingness. The world has changed. Your practice has changed. Your staff is going to change. So you best give some thought to yourself first and foremost. And the other thing is, you're not going to be able to do it all on your own. Mm-hmm. What we've discovered in all our conversation practices, what used to be a little bit of a minor annoyance about somebody's behavior, when you come back, I'm sure is going to be huge. That little drip of water is going to be a flood. It's just going to make you crazy. But if you understand yourself, it'll also help you deal with conflict. Mm-hmm. As much as we all like to think practices can be conflict-free, I think there will be a lot more conflict.
And
People have
just the
never
kind
gone
of
through it
conflict
before.
too.
Yeah, I mean, some people are going to react. They're going to come back as if nothing has happened.
Right.
They're probably fooling themselves,
Yeah.
Samantha.
Hmm.
Some people, it might not show for 6 months.
Right.
So again, all we're trying to do is get you to think about yourself. Now, if you've got some time, we're also suggesting, and I'm going to come back to your team in a moment, but it's a great time to reprioritize. And if you think analyticist is a tough word, reprioritize is even tougher. So what we've done is we've come up with the 5 Ps, which I'd like you to think about when you're reevaluating your practice. It's purpose, people, pace, perception, and profit. Sorry. And these are not in any order. In fact, if you're going to write these down and do them, the first thing is you need to prioritize the order.
Hmm.
And if you're going to put profit as the very first thing, I think you're going to have a difficult time moving forward. And hopefully that wasn't the first thing when you started your practice either. But if you think about the purpose is really your vision. And right now, the vision you had even a month ago is going to be very different. So you
Right.
got to really think about that. Your people, how's your staff going to react to us? And we've speculated a bit that some of your staff may not come back. They may have found this all too traumatic, and they're not going to be in any shape to work. And do you really want them back if they're not going to be at their best? So you have to think about how can you create a culture where people can be at their best. Profiling helps that because in a profile, it talks about wants and needs. Again, if you give people what they want, you generally get what you need. The pace now is also really critical because
Hmm.
pace is really determining how quick are you going to try and get back up to where you were. And if you rush it, I think you'll make some mistakes.
Yeah.
Of course, but you also can't go at a snail's pace.
Hmm.
This is where we're advocating when you get to understand yourself and understand your team, to have some buy-in. Listen to
Hmm.
them. As a leader, it's a great time to listen because since you opened, many of you, it's been great. You've done well financially. Your patients are happy.
Hmm.
Suddenly, new ballgame.
Right.
When we talk about perception, is really how are we going to do this?
Hmm.
And for some, it's really uncharted. So the how, maybe you were an associate somewhere before you bought your practice and you saw how they did things. You're redefining yourself as
Hmm.
a practice. And most importantly, and Samantha knows my passion for profiling and understanding people, you're really defining yourself as a person. Never mind just as a practitioner or a clinical staff. And profit, well, eventually we know you'll all get back to that.
Hmm.
So you have
Hmm.
to decide what are your drivers here and what is the order. So you rank them. Okay. Um, so back to your team. Uh, just have a good hard look at what everybody was doing when you left.
Hmm.
And they may have been doing jobs that really haven't been reviewed as a whole. They may have been done as a singular when you did a performance review or something.
Right.
But now's a great time to review all the roles.
Hmm.
Talk to your office manager, who hopefully is working virtually. Sit down and discuss the roles. And if you decide to make changes, send them out in advance to the staff.
Hmm. Hmm.
Let them know what they're walking into too.
Hmm.
There's nothing worse on the first day. Oh, forgot to mention, by the way, yeah, no, your new job is just this.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why that's important. I know it sounds funny, but I do a lot of exit interviews. And one of the reasons people leave is because the job was no longer as described. They got shifted into doing something they didn't want to. So get your staff engaged in the process, and be prepared for almost anything. And again, and redo the job. I like to call the 3 R's, which is reveal, release, and realize. Once you truly know who's coming back, what they're really capable, possibly through a profile, you can release the human potential. Once you reveal the human potential, that release it. Give people the best, ultimately the potential for your practice. So those are some things that I want you to think about.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think you cut out a little bit for that last one. And it was, I've heard you say this before, so I want this one more time to repeat for emphasis because you were cutting
All
in
right.
and out quite a bit, but I
Okay.
think that's a really powerful statement.
Yeah. So two takeaways is, and Samantha knows I like to do things in small numbers, like 5 P's. Now here's your 3 R's. We want you to reveal the human potential, means understand what people are capable. Then we want you to release it. Let them do what they're best at when you're redefining how your practice is going to look. Because if you reveal and you release the human potential, you ultimately realize the best for your practice.
Yep.
And we're also asking everybody to move forward. One of the keys of profiling is how people behave. We're using HOW now as an acronym to honesty, openness, and willingness to look at things and be honest. What do I have to change?
No, I think that, thank you so much for going over that again, because I think you touched on this, and it relates to both avenues for taking that time to reflect on who we are, and being true to that. Because the same thing, if we don't feel comfortable being somebody and having to play this persona as a boss, when in reality we're not like that. And
Right.
then we want to remember that we can't expect our team to do that either. We can't expect them to be somebody that they're not. So if we're putting them in a position where, let's say, for example, they're now a treatment coordinator, and a treatment coordinator has to discuss money. They have to discuss, if they have to go against some obstacles that they put. And if that person isn't comfortable in that position, we can't force them to do that. And then all of a sudden, we're going to start to see our conversion rate goes down, 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 down. And this person feels discouraged because they're not performing at a level that you want them to be. And then the battle begins. So I think that's a great way right now for us to not only, like Ken mentioned, for us to really redefine our purpose, kind of looking through the 5 Ps and seeing what that looks like for us as the owner, as the leader, but then also making sure that our team members are in the right seats, in the right roles, right? So in that way, we're all moving forward together once we get back, and we will get back to
Yeah.
our practice.
And Samantha, that's a great analogy about the treatment coordinator. Quite often, the office manager or the owner will come to a staff member and say, I'd like you to be this. And if it's not done, they may feel they don't have an option to say no.
Right.
And I've been in places where they found the most outgoing person who knew everybody's birthdays and brought muffins on Friday, and they elevated that person to, this was outside of dentistry, to be a sales manager because they thought she liked people. No. So they lost her in that role that she had before, failed miserably as a sales manager. Now they have to replace 2 people.
Yeah.
So it goes back to what we're talking about, honesty, openness, and willingness. Ask somebody if they don't want it. Don't make them feel like there'll be a repercussion.
Mm-hmm.
You want which goes back to the 3 R's, which is, reveal, release, and realize.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody is meant to do everything. There are strengths and weaknesses. Again, everybody has wants and needs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you meet people's wants, you generally get what you need.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Definitely.
but please,
No, I definitely agree. Did I cut you off with what you were going to say?
and the other thing is, you've never had this much luxury of time. I know it's forced upon you, but you may not get it again because you're all really anxious to get back to your passion. Mine is profiling. Samantha's just being a great team leader and all the wisdom she is always giving us. You may not get the opportunity again. Use it wisely.
Agreed. And it's very powerful with what you said. And I kind of wanted to take a minute back and kind of take a step back when it, because I know yesterday we were kind of doing a presentation to a very large organization, and you brought out a very important point as we're starting to kind of reflect on where we are right now. And one of those was really kind of taking a look at how we're going to go through different stages right now of grief. and really
Yes.
understanding that, what one person's going through, we need to acknowledge that, we need to respect that, and we
Right.
can't just force somebody all to feel excited and be rah rah and ready to go, and like Ken says, kumbaya. We're not going to be like that. We have to really acknowledge that everybody is going through different stages and are going to feel different feelings.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, besides helping people with oral health, you're dealing with people, and people are incredibly complicated, which makes a lot of this quite complex. And Samantha, as she mentioned, some people, their true feelings will not come out for months. And the worst thing is, and if you don't have a culture where people feel safe, other people are going to get on. What's the problem? Come on, we're back. What are you complaining about? We're back. And that's where you, as a leader, as a practitioner, again, understand yourself first. And that will help you then understand the others and find the tools within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And just because something works for somebody else is not a good enough reason to deploy it in your practice.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So what are those kind of stages? You walked through those yesterday, and I thought those were really important for us, because we might not
Sure.
go through any of those, right? We might just be ready as gung-ho, ready to open the doors, and that's all we're thinking about.
Well, if anybody's ever experienced loss, you go through the stages of grieving. The first is denial, where in this case you think, "Oh, that I won't get sick. This isn't gonna make it across the water. We'll be fine." Then you start to you get angry. What do you mean I have to stay home for 2 weeks? I don't want to stay home for 2 weeks. And then you do a little bit of bargaining. Okay, I'll stay home for 2 weeks, and then it's all going to be good. And then the next step, unfortunately, is sadness. That's when the reality hits. But the key then is the next step, which is called acceptance. And until you get to acceptance, it's really hard to do a lot of the things that we're trying to advise you on. I'm sure other people are giving you advice, and you're just being bombarded.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a loss. We've all suffered a loss. And the other analogy I used yesterday, if I might, it's like 9/11. And just think for a moment, after 9/11, how you went to the airport.
Mm-hmm.
You have not gone to the airport since 9/11 the way you did before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is a parallel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's big,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
So allow yourself time.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't push your staff to a place they don't want to be, because ultimately your patients will know.
Mm-hmm.
And they've gone through the same thing too.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is definitely a great exercise to kind of start giving yourself grace right now, using that time to reflect. And, this is a new situation to all of us. And so right now I think maybe I kind of went through all of those stages, like you said, Ken. I was like, whatever, this isn't that bad. It's just the flow, to being angry that I've got to be inside, to accepting it. And this is just the last, 3 weeks? Who knows what other changes are going to come to play? Who knows how long this is going to be for? So we're going to continue going through different stages, starting back at square one, maybe going to a different stage of grief. And that's going to be the same thing. It's new for all of us. We're all going through this. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to just do some reflection right now to, get ourselves a little bit, have some breath, give ourselves some grace, and be able to support others.
Yeah, don't stop breathing. We'll get through this, and make you feel safe yourself, because then you can make other people feel safe. And as we've been ending most of these with a quote from one of my favorite people, Marilyn Monroe, who said that sometimes good things fall apart so that better things can fall together.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you very much, Ken, for giving us some more motivation, some support, some great suggestions on what we can be doing right now so we can support our team and lead during some difficult times. So Thank you very much again for joining us. And we hope everybody has, if you have any questions, feel free to comment. Ken and I are here to answer any questions that you guys might have, and the rest of our team as well. So we will be back tomorrow, where we're going to have Isabel, who will help us go through all of the new updates with everything that's been happening. So with the US. So in that way, you guys are up to date and have all of the resources and support that you need to, help you through these difficult times. So thanks again for joining us. Bye.
Stay
Thanks again.
safe, everybody.